This marks the 15th part of this manhwa. If you haven't viewed the previous parts, you can access it by clicking the I button located above, or the link is provided in description. Let's aim for 200 likes on today's video. To show your support, consider subscribing to the channel. Let's begin our recap video for today's manhwa. As Josh struck a victory pose, the audience erupted in cheers, exclaiming that the first knight had won and defeated Randall's shooting star. They expressed amazement at his performance, noting that Randall had lost to a newcomer mercenary. They proclaimed the first knight as the best knighthood in the ceremony. The black-haired boy expressed astonishment at the new knighthood's impressive strength. The brown-haired boy acknowledged that the rumors were true, believing the knighthood's master to be Ashton's son, and mentioned his intention to write Ashton a congratulatory letter. The black-haired boy added that he would also search for other Ashtons in the capital. Hudson D. Randall, Count of Randall, angrily thought about how his knight lost to a mercenary despite being allowed to use lethal force. He was frustrated that even extreme measures to disable his opponent were ineffective. Randall questioned if Raul Ashton had truly gathered such a powerful people without his family's assistance. Realizing the urgency of the situation, he resolved to take swift action. Hudson told his knight captain there was nothing more to see and instructed him to leave. When the knight captain questioned the sudden departure, Hudson ordered him to leave the knights to someone else and return, taking only a few followers. The knight captain then asked where Hudson was going, and Hudson replied that he needed to visit the financial department to see Plank. After they leave, the duel continued. This time, an expert knight advanced to face Philip in combat. The knight initiated an aggressive attack, only to have Philip skillfully block it, leaving the knight visibly stunned. Sweating profusely from the unexpected turn, the knight's distraction allowed Philip to maneuver behind him. With a swift leap, Philip launched a decisive sword strike from the air. However, at the last moment, just before his blade would have connected, Philip skillfully halted his attack. The knight, taken aback by Philip's rapid movements, showed signs of confusion. Despite this, Philip complimented the knight, acknowledging the intensity and quality of their fight by saying, "It was a nice fight." Acknowledging defeat, the knight conceded, and the referee declared the first knight the victor. The crowd erupted in cheers, celebrating the first knight's continued winning streak. Jake commented that Philip's victory seemed effortless for him. Meanwhile, Josh expressed his admiration for Philip's win. Another observer remarked that Philip had decisively defeated a fellow advanced expert, emphasizing the dominance displayed in the match. A person with reddish-brown hair noted that Philip's performance confirmed that who is the main knighthood of the ceremony. Meanwhile, a bold individual named Jaden D. Ashton, Viscount of the Jaden Viscounty, observed the scene from a distance and questioned if it was the first knight. Mentioning the knighthood Raul formed, the observer recognized familiar faces among them. Turning to Titus for insights, the discussion shifted to Raul's character. Titus described Raul as someone who had been calm and composed from a young age. He speculated that Raul had likely matured further since the gate incident. Jaden remarked on the Ashton family's transformation, noting their previous satisfaction with rural swordplay. However, impressed by their recent developments. Meanwhile, Medeiros, commander of the kingdom's holy knights, expressed his interest in the first knight and their knighthood. He mentioned hearing from the capital that they were considered the finest in the kingdom, attributing this reputation to their exceptional performance. Medeiros likened their prowess to that seen in pre-war ceremonies. Sitting beside Medeiros was Carson, commander of the Royal Guards and president of the Reuben Kingdom Knights Association. Carson questioned the validity of crowning the best knighthood through a ceremony where prominent families like Templeton, Greer, and Ashton's Golden Bear did not participate. He expressed skepticism about the ceremony's ability to truly determine the kingdom's finest knights under these circumstances. Medeiros responded, acknowledging Carson's point but also highlighting the surprise that a new knighthood had managed to defeat Randall, one of the 5 renowned warrior families. Seeking his opinion on the matter, Carson interjected with an intriguing detail, mentioning that he had heard the master of the first knight was a student at the academy. Noting that they had met a few times before, Carson inquired about Raul Ashton's character, prompting Gray to humorously request permission to pose his own question first. Gray then asked Carson and Medeiros whether they believed the kingdom currently enjoyed peace. In response, Carson conveyed his belief that there are no peaceful times for knights, emphasizing the constant need for vigilance and readiness against potential threats. Gray acknowledged Carson's perspective and admitted his limited knowledge of Raul. He refrained from making definitive statements about the kingdom's safety compared to Carson and Medeiros, but speculated that Raul might emerge as a savior should an evil force threaten the kingdom in the future. However, he emphasized that these were simply his personal thoughts, and not certainties. Medeiros chuckled at Gray's praise for Raul, jokingly suggesting that Raul must be Gray's favorite student given the admiration expressed. Carson, however, maintained a serious tone and expressed his desire to test Raul himself. He emphasized that true greatness in a knight isn't defined solely by honor or reputation but by strength and demonstrated ability. Carson was determined to ascertain whether Raul's reputation was grounded in reality or merely an illusion, indicating his intent to evaluate Raul's true mettle firsthand. A little later, amidst the anticipation of the kingdom's official knight induction ceremony, a knight announced the commencement. He called for Sir Raul Ashton, the representative and master of the first knight, to step forward. The crowd erupted in cheers, expressing their admiration for the young master. Before proceeding, the knight turned to Carson and asked if they should begin. However, Carson paused and addressed Raul directly. He expressed a request to Raul, asking him to humor him. Before they officially started the ceremony, Raul contemplated Carson's words carefully, reflecting on the current president of the Knights Association's intentions. Carson acknowledged the exceptional performance displayed by the first knight during the ceremony but expressed disappointment that only one of the esteemed warrior families had participated. He continued, stating that as the president of the Knights Association, he desired to personally gauge the strength of the first knight. Carson then turned to Raul directly, seeking his opinion and asking if he agreed with the assessment. Raul pondered the significance of Carson's challenge, recognizing the immense reputation and skill of the Viscount. Carson was not only the president of the Reuben Kingdom's Knight Association, but also a captain of the Royal Knights and a beginner sword master. The gap between a sword master and a high expert was vast, making Carson the strongest opponent Raul had ever faced. As Raul weighed his options, Carson addressed him again, noting Raul's hesitation. He expressed surprise, expecting the master of the first knight to accept the challenge without delay. Raul knew that accepting Carson's request would test his limits and possibly redefine his standing as a knight. Pierce turned to Philip and asked, "What's going on? Why is he trying to fight Master?" Philip responded, "He wants to test us for himself, and think this one is a lot different from before. Young Master can't beat a sword master yet, but if he avoids him here, the work we did to bolster our reputation will amount to nothing at all. An unavoidable fight with no chance of winning. What will young Master do?" After a brief moment of contemplation, Raul agreed, saying sure. This response confused Carson. Raul clarified, "A duel with the respected president of the Knight Association. He can't miss out on such an honor." He wished to learn a lot from this president. Both Raul and the president unsheathed their swords, preparing for the fight. Carson remarked, "Since many people are watching them, this duel should do justice to the name of the Knights of the Reuben Kingdom." Raul respectfully acknowledged the president, saying of course, thank him for this opportunity. The audience erupted in excitement, shouting, "Wow, President versus Sir Raul? This is amazing. This is the actual highlight of this ceremony." Meanwhile, Josh asked Philip, "What is going on?" "This duel wasn't planned," Philip replied, "and it shouldn't happen. Not in a normal ceremony, at least," Pierce added. "However, this ceremony has undergone significant changes in both schedule and scale, which means there's no point in sticking to the previous standards." Jack commented, "That just means they have to prove themselves twice." Homer noted, "President Carson is a strict person, so he wants to be certain." Philip concluded, "Master must have accepted the duel because he's got something. They just have to trust his judgment." Gray laughed and remarked, "He think he put Raul in an awkward position by talking too much." Medeiros asked awkward, and added he think this is better for him. A duel with the president of the Knight Association isn't something he can experience anywhere. He has known Sir Carson for a long time, but it's been a while since he last saw him like this, with such enthusiasm. Raul then asked, "Shall they begin?" and rushed towards Carson, who took a defensive stance. Raul launched a forceful attack with his sword, which Carson blocked. Raul leaped into the air and attacked again with more force, and Carson blocked this attack with some effort. Carson then swung his sword at Raul for the first time, and Raul blocked it with his own sword. Raul thought he can't give him any space. He will counterattack if he stops for even a split second. He has to keep up. To his surprise, Carson's sword was about to hit him, but Raul immediately swung his sword to deflect Carson's strike. Raul realized that was close. Carson was one step faster than him. He tried taking control of this duel by striking over and over, but Carson came at him with an even faster move. Is this what a sword master is capable of? He can't give up already. Determined, Raul launched one attack after another, which Carson blocked. Carson then counterattacked with sharper and more forceful strikes. The audience stood up from their seats, shouting, "This is another level." They can't even tell what's going on because they're so fast. Josh exclaimed, "Holy shit, that's a sword master." Raul thought as expected. "He's strong. He can't find any gaps. He can only trade blows with him." Carson then said, "Good. He has seen his sword skill now. However, there's something more important than that." But then a cube of deep blue hue, surrounded by swirling black energy, appeared above Carson's left hand, and he continued by saying, "If he is going to lead the new generation, he will need more than just sword skill. Let's move on to the next part." Carson asked Raul if he was ready, prompting Raul to notice a strange energy emanating from a cube artifact. Raul questioned Carson's intentions with the artifact. Madero's questioning why Carson was using the artifact. Gray expressed concern about the artifact's abnormal behavior. Madero's identified it as a hybrid core, a significant artifact of the High Holy Knights designed to detect dark mana, primarily used by the Empire's soldiers. Originally intended to uncover spies during the ceremony, its deployment was cancelled due to stability concerns. Carson's unexpected use of the artifact raised eyebrows, with Madero's questioning the extent of Carson's actions in the arena, urging him not to be suspicious despite the first knight's contributions to the kingdom. Carson emphasized his need for certainty and requested Raul's cooperation. He then activated the hybrid core, causing dark mana to emanate from it and envelop Raul. Meanwhile, at the Reuben Kingdom's Department of the Interior, Plank expressed surprise at Count Randall's presence, noting rumors of his knight's participation in the ceremony. Hudson confronted Plank, questioning his apparent lack of concern for the ceremony's importance. He couldn't understand why Plank remained relaxed and suggested that Plank might be underestimating the significance of the events unfolding. Plank responded by acknowledging the First Knight's impressive performance during the ceremony, implying that he was aware of its impact. Hudson continued, expressing certainty that the First Knights would become obstacles, emphasizing that it was Plank's responsibility to prevent such interference. Plank reassured Hudson, dismissing the potential challenges as minor issues that wouldn't affect their larger plans. Hudson challenged Plank's dismissal of the Ashton kids as a small problem. Plank clarified that while Ashton County posed a threat if united against them, he viewed Raul individually, without the support of his county, as manageable. Hudson fell silent briefly, then elaborated on Raul's growing influence and popularity within the kingdom, suggesting that the First Knight could potentially become a more significant threat than even the Golden Bear Knights. He pressed Plank on whether he still considered them a minor concern. Led by a relatively inexperienced knight, were indeed causing trouble for their plans. He expressed confidence that Raul Ashton was unaware of the true conflict brewing, implying that Raul might not yet comprehend the scale of the impending conflict. In the arena, a dramatic scene unfolded as black mana engulfed the surroundings, causing concern among the audience who questioned the safety of the duel. The First Knight Order anxiously watched over their master Raul. Meanwhile, Carson observed the increasing intensity of the divine power being unleashed, bewildered by its unexpected strength. Raul, undeterred by the chaos, reflected on the unending vigilance and readiness required of a knight, influenced by the teachings instilled by the kingdom's president. Despite the turmoil, Raul questioned whether he should still commit to the duel, embodying the dedication expected of a knight sworn to protect the kingdom. Carson was astonished when Raul not only passed the dark mana test of the hybrid core but also utilized the divine power emanating from it. Carson speculated whether Raul possessed a higher caliber of divine power than expected for someone of his rank. Subsequently, a sight that shocked Carson, Gray, and the assembled crowd. Raul then concentrated the gathered divine energy into his arm and unleashed a powerful blast toward the sky. Witnessing these displays of prowess, Carson and others remained in stunned silence. Raul, confident in his abilities, sought confirmation, addressing the president directly, asking if he had proven himself. In the midst of the commotion at the arena, a person with red hair enthusiastically shouted that Master Raul was God's apostle, pointing out the awe-inspiring manifestation of the wings of light. The crowd, caught up in the fervor, echoed this sentiment, proclaiming Raul to be the chosen apostle capable of controlling divine power. They revered the first knights as God's own knights, guardians of Turium. Amidst the chants and declarations, Jaden turned around and remarked that they had seen enough. Titus expressed surprise at Jaden's readiness to leave so soon. Jaden explained that he now understood why Randall was cautious of Raul, despite his young age. He reflected on the unexpected emergence of such a formidable figure from their lineage and anticipated the unfolding events with excitement. Shortly thereafter, a knight proclaimed the announcement, heralding Raul d'Ashton as the leader of the Order of Knights, the first knight, and the head of the Knight Order. The audience erupted in cheers, calling out. Meanwhile, Raul knelt before Carson, positioning himself before the solemn ceremony. Carson initiated the oath-taking ritual by placing his blade on Raul's shoulder, representing the Knights Association of the Reuben Kingdom. Carson posed the question, asking Raul, now the master of the first knight, if he swore allegiance to the kingdom and its ruler, the king. Raul, with unwavering determination, solemnly declared, he swear. Carson asked Raul if he and his knights pledged to protect the royal family and the kingdom's people with their lives, and to take the lead in eliminating any threats to the kingdom. Raul responded with a resolute that he swear. Carson then inquired if Raul vowed to always train himself with humility and diligence, and to follow the code of chivalry while upholding the honor of the kingdom's knights. Again, Raul affirmed with conviction, saying he swear. Continuing the oath, Carson emphasized that Raul and his knights must embody strength, honor, and loyalty, ensuring the kingdom's prosperity, upholding the knights' honor, and maintaining justice. Carson officially recognized Raul and his knights as integral knights of the great Reuben kingdom. After the ceremony concluded, Medeiros approached Carson and inquired about his feelings regarding Raul Ashton. Carson initially feigned ignorance, prompting Medeiros to clarify that he was asking about Carson's impressions after dueling against Raul. Carson, somewhat dismissively, asked if Medeiros had not witnessed the duel, noting that Raul displayed all the qualities expected of a knight of the kingdom. However, Medeiros persisted, indicating that he wasn't interested in Carson's assessment of Raul's combat skills. Carson then questioned what is then he wants to know. He saw from Raul Ashton during the duel. After a moment of silence, Carson revealed his motives behind testing Raul Ashton. He explained that he wanted to understand the meaning behind President Gray's statements, which had left him troubled. Carson outlined 3 particular points that had unsettled him. First, Gray's warning about an impending threat to the kingdom. Second, Gray's suggestion that Raul Ashton might be the savior of all. And third, the fact that these statements came from President Gray himself. Carson questioned Medeiros about whether President Gray had ever mentioned such concerns about a threat to the kingdom, or singled out someone as a potential savior. He mentioned that while Gray had attributed these remarks to personal thoughts, as a knight of the kingdom, Carson couldn't dismiss them lightly without seeking deeper understanding and clarity. Asking if Carson believed President Gray. Stating that Gray had indeed sensed an imminent threat that necessitated a savior. Medeiros then questioned Carson further, asking if he saw Raul Ashton in the same light as President Gray did now. Carson admitted uncertainty but asserted one certainty. If Raul remained loyal to their cause, he could potentially fulfill the role of the kingdom's savior. However, should Raul turn against them, Carson warned that he could become their worst nightmare. Medeiros brought up Raul's successful passing of the hybrid cores test, but Carson reminded him that the test only verified the use of dark mana, not allegiance or true intentions. Carson emphasized the ambiguity surrounding Raul's relentless actions, suggesting it was prudent to approach him with caution until his true motivations became clearer. Medeiros reflected on Carson's character, noting how unchanged and steadfast he had remained over the years. At the Ashton County mansion the next day, the first knights were engaged in training. Josh sparred with Jake, rushing in with a vigorous attack. However, Jake effortlessly countered Josh's assault with a single move, sending Josh crashing to the ground. Frustrated, Josh questioned Jake about his ability to consistently block his attacks. Jake explained that while Josh's attacks were swift and forceful, they were predictable and lacked subtlety. He pointed out that while such tactics might be effective against some opponents, they wouldn't suffice against adversaries who had real combat experience. Jake advised Josh to adapt his fighting style according to different types of opponents, emphasizing the need to recognize and adjust to the strengths and weaknesses of each adversary. Acknowledging Jake's advice, Josh accepted the need to modify his approach in combat, Jake remarked to Josh that many new recruits had joined after witnessing the ceremony, largely inspired by Josh's performance. Flustered, Josh asked after watching him. He emphasized that Josh now bore a responsibility to serve as a role model for these newcomers. Jake expressed concern that this situation would likely lead to significant trouble. Josh sought clarification, asking Jake to explain what he meant by his ominous statement. Meanwhile, Raul observed the exchange between Josh and Jake from his window, sighing at the situation unfolding. At that moment, Bernard approached Raul, informing him that the initiation test for the new recruits he had mentioned earlier was all prepared and ready to commence. Raul expressed gratitude to Bernard for preparing the initiation test, noting that their efforts during the ceremony had proven fruitful. He anticipated that their previously quiet knighthood would now become bustling with new recruits. Curious about Raul's sudden push for expansion, Bernard questioned whether there was a specific reason for the urgency. Raul pondered Bernard's concern and then questioned whether Bernard truly believed the kingdom was currently peaceful. Bernard sought clarification, prompting Raul to acknowledge that while minor issues might occur, the kingdom was currently enjoying a period of peace as it always had. However, Raul ominously predicted that this peace would soon be shattered by an incident 5 days hence. He stressed the urgency of their preparations, emphasizing their responsibility to prevent the impending crisis and maintain peace. Then the scene shifted to a conversation between Gerald D. Reuben, the sixth prince of the Reuben kingdom, and Carson. Gerald thanked Carson for overseeing the ceremony on behalf of the royal family. Carson humbly responded that he had simply carried out his duty. Gerald explained that due to recent incidents at the gate, the royal family couldn't participate in events and hoped Carson understood their position. Carson acknowledged the uncertain times and stressed the importance of prioritizing the safety of the royal family, a sentiment he believed all knights shared. Gerald expressed his gratitude and mentioned hearing that a new knighthood had performed exceptionally well at the ceremony, specifically inquiring about the first knight. Carson confirmed that only one warrior family had participated. The first knight remained undefeated, distinguishing himself in the competition. Gerald expressed admiration for Raul Ashton and that he also sensed something from him when he saw him at the academy, and that recalling he and his knights, they had stood at the forefront during the appearance of the gates in the capital. They bravely protected the city and even defeated Empire scouts inside one of the gates. Impressed by their valor and dedication, Gerald suggested that they deserved recognition from the royal family, possibly even a medal. He mentioned currently, they are stationed at the gates, vigilantly watching to prevent any monsters from escaping, and his intention to visit them personally to offer his appreciation and rewards, and asked for Carson's suggestion. Carson, however, regretfully informed Gerald that the first knight was not permitted to enter any of the gates in the capital. Gerald was incredulous upon hearing that the knighthood responsible for defending the city during the gate incidents was barred from entering any of the gates in the capital. He questioned who had issued such an order. Carson explained that the restriction was imposed by Randall, who managed the capital's defenses. The rationale given was to optimize their forces effectively. Carson clarified that they were only allowed entry into one specific gate where Empire scouts were located, due to the presence of hostages. Gerald expressed frustration, emphasizing that this wasn't the time for internal conflicts among noble families. Determined to address the issue directly, he declared his intention to meet with Count Randall personally to resolve the matter, and ensure that the knighthood received the recognition and access they deserved. Inside one of the gates, a system window displayed information about the monsters in that gate, including an armored boar at level 55, rank D, with mutated molars and arm traits. Meanwhile, Raul entered the gate and swiftly defeated several armored boars near the entrance. Reflecting on the situation, Raul noted the abundance of armored boars inside the gate and realized the potential chaos that would ensue in the capital if these creatures escaped. Determined to prevent disaster, Raul resolved to handle the threat within the gate. However, as he strategized, the armored boars regrouped and launched a coordinated attack from all directions. Inside the gate, after Raul had encountered the armored boars and faced their coordinated attack, members of the First Knight arrived to assist. Philip, Josh, Pierce, and Jake swiftly engaged the armored boars, joining forces to defeat the creatures that had threatened Raul. Assessing the situation, Philip remarked that dealing with the armored boars would take considerable time. Jake emphasized that they were only at the entrance of the gate, and that this was just the beginning of their task. Pierce stressed the importance of halting the armored boars within the gate to prevent them from escaping into the capital. Josh expressed concern about their ability to achieve this daunting task. In response, Raul assured them not to worry, stating that they were not the central figures in this gate's scenario, as he said that alchemist Nakia arrived on the scene, apologizing for her tardiness due to the time needed to brew a potion. Raul reassured her, emphasizing her crucial role in the mission. Encouraged by Raul's words, Nakia unleashed her alchemical power, creating a massive explosion. The brightness of the explosion surprised Josh, while Jake marveled at its display, questioning if it was indeed magic. Philip recognized that what they witnessed was not just ordinary magic but a potent blend of alchemy and magic. While battling inside the gate, Nakia unleashed her alchemical magic once more, blasting the monsters with powerful force. Observing Nakia's prowess, Raul reflected on her resilience, noting that despite the recent ordeal with her sister, she hadn't weakened. In fact, her abilities had surpassed his expectations. Impressed by Nakia's display of alchemy and magic, Raul acknowledged the significant boost she brought to their forces. After finishing the monsters, she turned to his comrades, asking was that too much. But they were awestruck by Nakia's abilities. Philip praised Nakia's use of potions to amplify mana as brilliant, emphasizing its effectiveness in combat. Raul agreed, recognizing Nakia as a formidable asset and the strongest wildcard they possessed. He acknowledged that their current success was largely due to Nakia's contributions but reminded everyone that they still faced the challenge of defeating the guardian of a C-rank gate. This marks the conclusion of the 15th part of this manhwa. The 16th part will be uploaded after there were at least 3 to 4 chapters of this manhwa released, so remember to like and subscribe to the channel for future update. Leave comments to share your experience. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video.